let's take this problem. This is a basic flowcharting problem that states that we need to draw a flowchart that displays PSHS 5 times. Though this is simple, we are going to introduce the concept of looping. So in order for us to be able to do this task, we need to set up a counter to that will count the number of times the word PSHS was printed. So we start with the terminal symbol, as we say that a flowchart must start and end with a terminal symbol. Now, after we have made that the beginning of our flowchart, we have to initialize our counter by using the preparation symbol, and we say x is equal to 1. So x here would be the counter that will count the number of times the statement inside the loop was executed. And after which we are going to ask if the value of x is less than or is it less than or equal to 5. Here, if the condition is true, then we print the word or the text PSHS. Take note that when you want to display a text, it should be enclosed in double quotes. And after displaying, we increment the counter by 1. So we say x is equals to x plus 1. And then we loop back to check whether the condition that we have here is met. So if the condition is false, when the condition becomes false, then we stop. So now, looking at this flowchart, this is where the loop is set up. So this is where we set up our counter, and again the counter is placed there to check how many times the program segment, these statements, has been executed. So we start with x is equals to 1, and we test is the value of x less than or equal 5. So again, we start with 1. So by substitution, we say is 1 less than or equal 5. If the condition here is true, then we print the word PSHS. So since it's true, it will display the word PSHS. Now, the next statement here is an incrementation of our counter. When we say incrementation, we add a certain value to the counter. In this case, we add 1 to the counter. So the current value of x is 1, and add 1, our counter now becomes 2. And we loop back. Take note that this is our loop. So the second time that we ask the condition is the value of x less than or equal 5, the value of x now is 2 because we just have, what do you call this? We just have incremented the value of x somewhere here. So here the condition remains true because of course 2 is less than 5. So since it's true, we go back to this statement, or we execute the statements inside the true branch. In which case, the statement again says to print PSHs. So we print PSHs the second time. And same process, we increment the value of x. X is equals to x plus 1. Current value of x is 2. Add 1. X becomes 3. And we look back to check again the condition. Again, we substitute the current value of x, which is 3, to x. So is 3 less than or equal 5? The condition remains true. We print PSHs. So we print the word PSHs the third time. And we increment the counter by 1. Counter becomes 4. We look back. We check. Is 4 less than or equal 5? The condition is still true. So again, we print the word PSHs and increment the value of x by 1, and this time x becomes 5. Then we look back. In the condition, we test, is the value of 5 less than or equal 5? It's not less than, but it is equal to 5. So the condition remains true. And with that, we print again the word PSHs and increment the value of x by 1, x becomes 6. And when we look back, here the value of x is 6. So when we ask, is the value of x, which is 6, less than or equal 5? The condition here becomes false because the value of x, which is 6, is now greater than that of 5. So in this case, since it's false, we are going to execute the statement in the false branch, which is to stop or terminate the flowchart. So if you're going to look at the number of times that we have displayed the word PSHs, we were able to successfully display it 5 times. Okay, so this is how looping works. I hope you have understood the concept of looping with this example. Now, let's have another problem. So let's try to make a flowchart. So we say draw a flowchart that will display all even numbers I'm sorry for that. Displays all even numbers from 2 to 20. What about this? So the task here is to display all even numbers from 2 to 20. And we know that 2 is already an even number. So what we're going to do here is, again, we set up a counter, and instead of having an initial value of 1, we are going to set it up or give an initial value of our counter to be equal, okay, set up our counter to be equal to, because we are again told to display even numbers starting from 2 up to 20. So here we say y is equal to 2, and we test if the value of y sorry for that. Okay. We test if the value of y is less than or equal to 20. So if the condition is true, then what do? We say print the value of y. Now take note here that we don't have double quotes. Okay, we don't have double quotes on y, because what we want to be displayed is the value that is stored on variable y. Now the difference between this y inside the double quote and the y without double quotes is that when you display y with double quotes, what will be displayed is the text that is inside the double quote, in which, in this case, what will be displayed is y, while when we say print y without double quotes, what will be displayed is the value stored on that variable. In this case, the current value of y is 2, so it will display 2. Okay, hope that is clear. Now, going back to our flowchart, we say here print the value of y. So after displaying the value of y, what we're going to do is to increment our counter. Okay, we increment our counter, but this time we don't increment it by 1. So we want to get or display all even numbers, and we started with 2. And for that, and for us to be able to execute this correctly, we are going to increment the counter by, we increment the counter by 2, so that when we add 2 to the current value of y, which is 2, we are going to get a value of 4. And 4, we know that it's still an even number. So after which, we look back, and when the condition is satisfied, or rather when the condition is false, then that's the time that we exit from our loop and we stop the flowchart. So let's try to check whether this would give us, or this would let us display all the even numbers from 2 to 20. So again, we start and give an initial value of 2 to y. So here, variable y will receive a value of 2. So this is an assignment statement wherein 2 is stored on variable y. Again, in programming, the value on the right will be stored to the variable on the left. side of the equation. So it's not the other way around. So you can say that 2 is equal to y. This is wrong. Okay, so it's always whatever value that you have on the right side of the equation will be stored to the variable on the left of the equation. So here we are assigning a value of 2 to variable y. So y holds a value of 2. Now when we go inside our loop, we check first, is the value of y less than or equal 20? So by substitution again, is 2 less than or equal 20? The condition is true. Since it's true, we display the value of y. Take note again, we are displaying the value of y. And what is y? Y is 2, so what would come out is 2. Then we increment the value of y by 2. That's 2 add 2, y becomes 4. And we look back. When we look back, we ask, is the value of 4, which is the current value of y, less than or equal 20? The condition remains true, and we print the value of y. So we print 4. Then we increment again the value of y by 2. So y becomes 6. We look back and we test, is the value of y, which is 6, less than or equal 20? The condition here is true. So since it's true, again, we print the value of y, which is 6, increment y by 2, y becomes 8. We look back, we test, is 8 less than or equal 20? The condition is true. And we repeat this until all the values from what's this? From 8 down to 20. So you have 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. And when y is 20, after displaying the value of y here, which is 20, we increment the value of y by 2. And y, in that case, becomes 22. And when we look back, we test, is the value of y, which is 22, less than or equal 20? The condition here becomes false. So since the condition is false, we go out of the loop, executing the next statement in the false branch, which is actually stop. So here we successfully display the values or all the even numbers from 2 to 20. Okay, so this is how we make use of a counter in loops. So again, a counter is placed in a loop to keep track on the number of times a program segment is executed. Hope that you were able to learn how loops is executed inside a flowchart or in a program. Okay, so let's have another example. Let's have, so we were using incrementation in the two samples that we have. What about if we display a countdown let's say a countdown timer from, say, 10 to 1. And then oh, and then it displays lift. Say lift off. Do I say lift off? So here, the task here is to display a countdown timer from 10 to 1, and after you have reached the value of 1, it displays the word lift off. So how do we execute this? Again, we start with a terminal symbol and we say start. Then we have to initialize our counter, or rather, yeah, somewhat like we have to initialize our counter here. And since we would start with the larger value 10, so we say the value of x is equal to 10. Now, in this case, instead of using an incrementation value, we are going to use a decrementation process, which means that instead of adding, we are going to subtract a value from 10 down to 1. So the condition would be, here we say, is the value of x greater than 0? If the condition is true, then we say print the value of x. Then what we're going to do, instead of adding, since we want a countdown from 10 to 1, we say x is equal to x minus 1. And then we loop back. Okay? Then, after, what happened? I'm sorry for that. So, after which, we are going to display now the text print lift off. So this is a way of how a rocket would be launched to space. So how does this flowchart work? Now again, we start by initializing the value of x to be 10, because again, we want to display from 10 to 1 before we display the word lift off. So here, we test, is the value of x greater than 0? Again, by substitution, what's the value of x? X is 10. So we say, is 10 greater than 0? The condition is true. Since it's true, we display the first value of x, which is, of course, it's 10. Then, we decrement the value of x, so which means we subtract 1 from the current value of x. X here becomes 9. And we loop back. And we test, is the value of x greater than 0? So is 9 greater than 0? The condition is true. So we display the value of x, which is 9. and we subtract 1 from 9, that becomes 8, and it performs the loop until 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And after printing the value of x, which is 1, we are going to subtract 1 from x, and this becomes, or it will give us a value of 0 for x. And when we look back with that value, the condition here becomes false. Why? Because 0 is no longer greater than 0, but they are equal. Now, since they are equal, the condition here becomes false, and it would execute the next statement outside the loop. So what is that? It says here to display liftoff. So which means that after the countdown 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it displays liftoff. And that's the time that we stop our flowchart. Okay, so hope that you've learned something from this video. Till the next one.